Research Institute in New Delhi. Dr. Pachauri was the co-chair of the International Panel on Climate Change, and he had just won the Nobel Peace Prize. Shared it with Vice President Gore. And as soon as I walked into that meeting, I was jet lagged and fatigued. It was my first meeting getting off the plane. As soon as I walked in, I was almost paralyzed with fear, because I saw the telltale sign of a really boring, long, and endless meeting, and it was a PowerPoint presentation. You see PowerPoints, you know, your eyes are just going to close really fast. And so I sat through this PowerPoint presentation, and it was just graphs and charts and data and concentric circles, and just a kaleidoscope of statistics and facts. And just before my chin hit the table, I said, Dr. Pachauri, I leaned over to him, I said, Dr. Pachauri, this is all very interesting, but I have one question for you. What's making the difference? Tell me what's changing the world. Give me one example from your heart on what's changing the world. And he looked at me and he said, Congressman, and he smiled, he said, that would be the 6 women of the Sundarbans. I said, the 6 women of the Sundarbans? What is that? He said, well, you know, the Sundarbans, anybody know about the Sundarbans? Anybody here know about the Sundarbans? Sundarbans is a remote delta region in India. No connectivity, no infrastructure, no anything, except they have a solar panel. And 6 women who use that solar panel to charge up solar lanterns. And those 6 women rent those solar lanterns to the villagers. And the villagers use those solar lanterns to read to their kids and keep their streets safe and educate their families. Now, I used to be on the Armed Services Committee. That's the committee that has jurisdiction over all national security policy and where we're fighting, when we're fighting, why we're fighting. We spend $550 billion a year to keep the world and America safe from people who are exploiting the dark. But in the Sundarbans, you have all the elements you need for stability, prosperity, and sustainability. You have a solar panel. You have the empowerment of women, something that is essential to any hope for peace and security around the world. The empowerment of women. You have a sustainable small business. And you have light. And you know how much that's costing? That solar panel and those solar lanterns? $35,000. A $35,000 grant from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory in Golden, Colorado. What's better? $550 billion to fight the global war on terror, or $35,000 to provide light to a village so that people can keep that village safe and women can grow a business? What choice do you think is the best choice? Those 6 women of the Sundarbans are changing the world by changing their village. And one of the things we need to do is understand that we can keep the world safe and change the world, even if it's one village at a time, because that is changing the game. That's the first game changer. Let me give you the second one. We've had 30 years in this country of backsteps, half steps, and missteps when it comes to energy policy. You know the only thing that Republicans and Democrats do well together in Washington? We both screw up energy policy. We do a really good job screwing up. Now, I'm a Democrat. I think my party has done a lot better than the Republicans, but we haven't done everything we should. Let me tell you exactly what I mean. Jimmy Carter in the 1970s goes on national television, President Carter, and he declares the moral equivalent of war on oil. And then he loses his election, and who came after Carter? Reagan. You know what the first thing Ronald Reagan did? First thing he did in office? He tore down the solar panels from the White House roof. That was his first executive order. And then he tried to delete funding for renewable energy in the United States. Big step back. And who succeeds President Reagan, the first president? Bush. And you know what he does? He continues the Reagan policies of budget cuts for renewable energy. And after President Bush comes President Clinton. And President Clinton submits increases to the renewable energy budgets, but you know what happens? The Republican Congress says no and cuts those increases. And after President Clinton, we have a repeat of President Bush, And you know what he does? He does two things. First, he tries to slash funding again, $250 million from the renewable energy budgets of the Department of Energy. He tries to slash the funding. And I was one of the things I'm most proud of in Congress is I told the President of the United States, President Bush, no way are you doing that, and we restored the money, but he tried to cut those funds. And then the second thing he did is he gave a State of the Union message where he said to Congress, I will end our dependency on foreign oil. And then he flew to the National Renewable Energy Laboratory in Boulder, Colorado, and as Air Force One was making its way, you know what they had to do? They had to rehire the dozens of workers at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory that the President's budget had just laid off because they didn't want him to be embarrassed when he got there. That's not effective energy policy. Now, you want to know what the second game changer was? Last week it happened. Last week, the Congress passed the Economic Recovery and Reinvestment Act. And after 30 years of budget cuts, and 30 years of ripping solar panels off the White House roof, and 30 years of neglect, we passed a bill that will pump $90 billion into renewable energy in this country.
Woo!
$90 billion. Now, just to put that in perspective, and I'm going to wrap up in a second, but just to give you perspective, the entire budget for the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy in the United States was $1.2 billion, $90 billion. So we can put solar panels on the roofs, so that we can use wind power, so we can have plug-in hybrids, so that we can have light rail, so that we can help local companies develop the next great technologies, so we can do what other countries are doing and regain our strength on renewable energy. We put our money where our mouths are, and it's going to make a difference. And here's the third and final game changer. I was at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory a few months ago. I brought a group of New York business leaders to see what they are doing there. And I'm going to invite all of you, and I'm going to invite PowerShift to call my office, because I can't take all 600 of you there. But if you're ever interested in going with me to the National Renewable Energy Lab, maybe we can do it through PowerShift. I would love to take you there. I call it Disney World for energy geeks. It's just the coolest place ever. And this is what I saw when I got there. And here's another game changer. I saw a plug-in hybrid, and you know what it was plugged into? A solar panel. You got it, a solar panel. That's the future, guys, that's the future. Solar panel absorbs the sun's energy, transmits the energy to the car runs total plug-in, it runs on the power of the sun, it's completely off-grid, it doesn't emit any carbon whatsoever. No carbon. Now, you can give a hand to the National Renewable Energy Lab. If 6 women in the Sundarbans can light a village, if the National Renewable Energy Laboratory in Boulder, Colorado can power a car by the sun, and if the Congress of the United States and the President of the United States can pass a bill putting $90 billion into advanced energy, if we can do all of those things, then we can once and for all end the 30 years of missteps, backsteps, and half-steps. But here's the deal. Here's my final point. And I know I said final point, 2 final points again, but I'm a congressman. You know, we don't know when the finality is the final point. But here's the deal. And I mean this, I'm going to leave you with this. If we don't do it now, with a president who gets it, and a Congress who wants to do it, and me and you, if we don't do it now, it's never going to happen. It is up to you, and it is up to me, not to take no for an answer. I am tired, and I'm sure you're tired, of hearing it's too hard, it's too expensive, it's too impractical. Nothing is too hard, nothing is too impractical when it comes to changing the game and saving our planet. This is the time to